The party ended the way family parties always did. Too much food, half-finished conversations, the sense that everyone was relieved when it was finally over. I remember stacking plates in the kitchen while my parents argued lightly about leftovers. Nothing felt broken yet, just noisy. Ordinary. It wasn't until we were in the car that I noticed how quiet she was. My fiancée stared out the window, hands folded tightly in her lap. I asked if she was okay. She nodded too quickly, then turned her face toward the glass as if the streetlights were suddenly interesting. That silence followed us home. Later, when the house had settled and there was nowhere left to hide, she told me. Not all at once. Not cleanly. Just enough. Her voice shook, not with hysteria, but with disbelief, like she was still trying to understand how something could happen in a place that had always been presented as safe. My brother. The word felt unreal in my mouth. My older brother. The one everyone trusted. The one my parents described as misunderstood whenever he crossed a line. I didn't shout. I didn't pace. I listened. That was the first real decision I made. Listening without interrupting, without minimizing, without trying to turn it into something manageable. That night rewired my understanding of loyalty. When we told my parents, their response was immediate and chilling in its efficiency. There was no curiosity, no pause to absorb what they were hearing. Just defense. They said she must have misunderstood. They said alcohol blurs memory. They said my brother would never risk everything like that. Then, quietly, almost gently, they asked what she had been wearing, why she'd been alone in that room, why she hadn't said anything sooner. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't threaten us. They framed it as concern, as protection, as practicality. "You don't want to ruin the family over something like this?" my mother said. Something like this. That was the moment I understood what kind of people they were when tested. The pressure came next. Not dramatic ultimatums, just steady, reasonable-sounding attempts to contain the damage. Suggestions that we handle it privately. Reminders of the family business, the employees who depended on it, the reputation they'd built over decades. Warnings about what accusations do to people. I was underestimated then. They assumed blood would pull me back into line, but the truth had already shifted my center of gravity. We went to the police. The room was small and neutral, the officer methodical. There were questions, forms, pauses where my fiancée had to steady herself before continuing. It wasn't empowering. It was exhausting. But it was real. Once the report was filed, control left the family entirely. My parents were furious, not at my brother, but at us. They accused me of betrayal, of choosing a woman over my own blood, as if protecting the person I loved were some reckless indulgence. My brother didn't contact me directly. His lawyer did. The case moved slowly. Months passed, then more. During that time, the family business began to feel the strain. Clients asked questions. Partners distanced themselves, not because of gossip, but because uncertainty makes people cautious. My parents insisted this was our fault too. I watched from a distance, grieving a family that no longer existed. The trial itself was almost anticlimactic. No grand speeches. Just testimony, evidence, and the uncomfortable weight of facts. My fiancée spoke once. Her voice didn't waver. She wasn't trying to convince anyone, just telling the truth as she had lived it. When the jury returned, the word guilty landed without drama. No gasp. No outburst. Just a collective exhale in the room. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. The consequences unfolded quietly but relentlessly. My brother was sentenced. My parents' business collapsed within the year, not out of vengeance, but because trust, once broken, doesn't negotiate. Vendors pulled out. Contracts weren't renewed. The community they'd relied on saw them clearly for the first time. They tried to contact me then, not to apologize, to explain. To say they hadn't had a choice. I didn't respond. Life after all of this didn't feel like justice served. It felt like starting over with fewer illusions. Some relationships never recover. Some truths, once spoken, can't be made smaller. My fiancé and I rebuilt slowly. There are still days when the weight of it all presses in unexpectedly. Healing isn't linear. Neither is grief. But I know this loyalty that demands silence in the face of harm isn't loyalty at all. It's cowardice dressed up as tradition. Choosing differently cost me my family. I would make the same choice again.